Hi there, I'm Tokso Meshakin, your Caltrans director. Thanks for taking the time to listen in to this monologue and hopefully what will become a bigger part of several dialogues that we'll continue to have at Caltrans. While we're having this conversation is we want to amplify an issue that's come to many of our hearts and minds this year. But when you think about 2020, for many of us, this year's been pretty tough. It's been one of the toughest years that we have had to go through. You can go down the list. If you start with COVID-19, which a lot of us will probably remember this year 2024. When you think about COVID, the impact in the country right now, we're over 190,000 people dead. So far, we're 9.5 months into this year, and 6.5 months into the pandemic, or 7 months into the pandemic. In California, that number, 14,000, more than 14,000 people have died in our state due to COVID. If you shift a little bit and you think about what are some of the other impacts that COVID has had? Well, the economic toll, the economic impact of COVID. You're talking about 3 times the numbers that we had during the economic recession, the Great Recession of 2009. More than 30 million jobs lost across the country. California, what does that mean? In 1 month alone, in April, more than 2 million jobs loss in the state of California. Triple the unemployment rates that the state had just a mere 10 months ago. We now have 3 times as many people unemployed. That's just the economic side. And then there are many other angles as well to the challenges we faced. But things have even been tougher. You look at fires. You look at the heat wave that we're experiencing. You look at homelessness that we're experiencing at extreme heights. So it's been a challenging year. It's been a tough year on many fronts. I'll say, briefly just about the fires. We've burned over 3 million acres in the state of California. Over 3 million. That's tough to imagine. But what's even tougher to imagine are the properties that have been lost and the loss of life. Especially our men and women who are of service to our state and to our cities who are battling the fires. It goes on and on. It's just been a difficult year. But one of the most difficult parts of the year also has been the fact that we've seen, or what's been highlighted in front of us is the injustice, inequity issues that we face. And that's what this dialogue that we're going to have over the next couple of months at Caltrans is about. So on the injustice and inequity front, in May of this year, on Memorial Day, while we were battling COVID-19, we saw something happen in Minnesota with the killing of George Floyd that, to be honest with you, things like that have happened across the country many times prior, but the way that particular one happened, that particular incident happened, is one that just touched so many people, regardless of where you live, what your beliefs are, what your political affiliations are. It touched a lot of people. It hit a lot of people hard, and it hit me hard as well. To the point that it led me to have a conversation that I was dreading to have. I was hoping not to have. And that conversation was directly with my son about what life and what society sometimes entails. And I had a very heart-touching conversation with him that led to me saying, essentially, I didn't want him to ride his bicycle in the neighborhood we lived in anymore, because of my fears that as he was riding, somebody would think that he probably did something, or he was a part of something that he shouldn't have been a part of, because he likes to ride his bicycle fast. How do you sit a 13-year-old kid down and say, hey, you can't ride your bike anymore because people are going to perceive you to be something that you're not? That was one of the conversations that I was dreading to have, but I had to have. But that Memorial Day weekend, as the protest ensued across the country and in our state as well, one of the things I started to do was say, okay, you've been given this responsibility. You've been put in a position of leadership. What are you going to do? What is your team going to do? What is the department that you are responsible to serving with other men and women to help the state with building a better transportation system and improving the quality of life? What are you guys going to do? What are you going to do? And I started to immediately think about people to call and things that we could do as a department. And it's led us to several things. I mean, there are things that we're going to be working on within the department, adding more resources, doing symbolic things like changing names that have a bad history in our country and in our state. But, one of the things that's very clear is we need to start talking about these challenges, listening to people who have been impacted, and start to figure out how we take action to move us as a populace, us as a people. How do we move forward? Three P's I'll touch on quickly that will be a part of this dialogue that we will have as a department that we will focus on. Is number one, our people. Number two, our programs and projects. And finally, the third P, our partnerships, partners. Number one, our people. To touch on that very quickly, we need to have a workforce. Caltrans needs to be a workforce that is very representative of the people who live in the state, and at every single level, as much as we can. So at the entry level of the department, the rank and file level, all the way up to middle management and executive leadership, it should be as reflective as possible. It should represent that diversity that California is known for, and not be one specific group of people that only get a chance to be in those positions all the way up to the executive level of the department. Number two, our programs and projects, which is going to be a big part of the series that you're going to watch, hopefully watch over the coming months, over the coming weeks and months. The responsibility we have is to deliver projects that change people's lives or enhance people's lives or transform lives. And so as we undertake those projects, we need to understand the mistakes and the ills of the past that we have made in our responsibility. Some of us were not there 40, 50 years ago, 30 years ago when those decisions were being made. But some of us actually are still here in this department. And knowingly or unknowingly, we made those decisions that had some positive impacts, obviously, because we have mobility options in many communities across the state. But some of those decisions then also had negative impacts, and in some cases even decimated the fabric of those communities. So understanding those mistakes of the past and being very intentional as we listen to communities, being very intentional about improving those communities as we were very destructive in those communities in the past. So our programs and projects, and finally, the third and final P, our partnerships. One of the things that we are clearly known for is the amount of resources, the amount of influence we have on the economic climate of our state. And not just in the projects that we deliver, but also in very much in the business opportunities that we are able to create and provide for people in the state. So that means, small businesses across the state should continue to see opportunities with us. It's great that we have a nearly $16 billion budget, but that budget is not meant for one particular group of consultants or contractors. It should help, the small business owner who's just opening a design firm or a planning firm, and regardless of whether it's a woman or someone that's of Native American descent or Latino, African American, those business opportunities we should continue to make sure we are able to provide for people across our state. So those 3 Ps we will talk about a lot. We will put metrics behind them. We will work on them. But more importantly, we will listen more than ever to the people that we serve in the state. But the conversation needs to start internally with us. So this is my monologue to you, to our team, to members of the Caltrans family. But hopefully what happens from this is we continue to amplify a dialogue that needs to happen amongst us and continues across the state as well. So what we're gonna do, you're gonna watch a 3-part series where we talk to the leadership at Caltrans, where our district directors, Tony Tavares and Mike Beauchamp, will start off with a conversation with them, and then we'll talk to people working on equity issues across the department. People like Jeannie Ward Waller and Rihanna. We're going to have conversations with them about, again, this very important topic. So thanks for engaging in this. This is a very important conversation. If we're going to make change at all, one of the things that we know we have to do is we can't sit back and wait on change to happen, whether it be the COVID challenges we face, the fires we face, the economic impacts we face, the inequity and justice issues we face. What we know we have to do is step up and push. We can't sit back. We need to have conversations, have dialogue, but ultimately what we need to do is take action. So thanks for engaging in this. Thanks for being a part of it. Please listen, and we'll continue this dialogue to continue to try to make a difference for our department and the state of California as well. Thank you.